And welcome once again to Web Methods Wednesdays. This is Charlie Greenberg, your host for today's presentation. And as many of you know, throughout 2015, we presented every Wednesday cutting-edge use cases and demos supported through Web Methods technology, including integration and data quality, API management, business process management, or BPM, adaptive applications, among other products. Today, however, we're going to relaunch the series with an overview of Software AG's digital business platform titled Architecture for Digital Business. Our presenters are Subhash Ramachandran, Senior Vice President of Web Methods Product Management, and Hank Bailey, Vice President for Digital Business Strategy and Enablement. Before we begin, the conclusion of today's presentation will be followed by a Q&A session, so at any point, please use the WebEx Q&A box at the bottom right-hand side of your screen to participate. And with that, it's my pleasure to introduce Hank Bailey.
Thank you, Charlie. As we spend time today talking about how do we re-architect the digital business, I challenge you to think differently, to think about where we've been and where we need to go in the new world of the digital business. Many organizations are being challenged, whether it's from McKinsey or Gartner or even just Fortune, CNN. Any news outlet is talking about how we and organizations need to innovate and become more of a digital enterprise, because businesses are changing as they're challenged by new organizations who are entering markets they've never been in before because of the advent of leveraging technology in a new and exciting way. We look forward today to talking about how we got to where we are today and where we need to go. To start, let's look at where we are. The current state is each CIO is presented with a challenge each year of reducing costs, reducing complexity, at the same time, increasing innovation. This is further challenged by the fact that, according to Gartner, 79% of the budget allocated to IT has already been allocated to existing IT spend. This is something that challenges every organization. How do they innovate with so much money already allocated to those applications? We think part of where that came from, and in order to fix it, we need to understand how we got there. And really, it all started with custom applications. That's where every IT organization originally started, is building custom applications. The reason they did this is they needed to innovate even then to provide new functionality, to differentiate their business, and to interact with customers. But over time, this became perceived to be very expensive, whether it was mainframe cost or server client server or whatever it was. It was expensive to pay individuals to customize each and every aspect of an application. So over time, we began to think that, wow, let's standardize on, and of course, like SAP or ERP applications. This provided us the ability to shrink our costs, and reduce complexity. But over time, what we realized is that we needed more and more data from other applications. We acquired organizations, and they had their own ERP and custom applications, which led to more need for what you see here in the red, which is point-to-point integration. Because although I had new standardized functionality, I didn't have access to all the data immediately. And so I had to build these point-to-point and oftentimes very tightly coupled connections to where the data existed. And more of those had to be done. Then, as we looked at how we were conducting business, we need to understand and look back and say, well, could we do this better? Or how do we get better insight into where our orders coming from? And so the advent of data warehouses came along. And again, they were starving for data. Typically data that was historical, whether it's month or then we got weekly and then we got closer to real time. And Hadoop has also further expanded this in terms of being able to do massive amounts of analysis on historical data. One of the things that this did do is increase the complexity and also the cost, but it did allow us some new innovation in terms of being able to understand insights we didn't know before. The challenge is we couldn't take action on them in this architecture. And so, again, we move data around more and more. Again, BI gave us the ability to provide a window to that, to the business to be able to give new insights for them to be able to challenge us to implement or create new applications to create those. But it was not in a real-time nature, and something that we think is lacking as we move forward into the 21st century architecture. Next, we all know that we have to have external partners, whether it's receiving orders or whether it's ordering information from our third-party suppliers. And that, again, created more need to take that data from external organizations and pull it into our organization. Now, that created more challenges around security, because now we had to open up our firewall. We had to agree on protocols between organizations. And that often required a whole new set of systems and applications designed specifically to both be secure, but also to get access to this information that exists all across the organization. And this was not only just in one place. It had to be, again, point-to-point integrations needed to be implemented. Now, we began to see the advent of creating the departmental service bus, the idea of congregating some of these point-to-point applications. But they were typically focused on specific use cases and only connected between a few applications. In fact, some ERP vendors or other application providers provided their own capability to provide this integration challenge. In fact, many had to in order to compete, because they didn't own the data. We had all these applications being created, and they had lots of standardized functionality, but they lacked data from our organization in order to make them successful and useful. And they also tended to hoard information in order to perform their functions, but not really good at sharing that across the enterprise in order to allow new capabilities or new functions to be performed in the organization. So we also needed to have web access applications for whether it's customers want to see visibility into their orders, or partners to understand where their shipment was, or whether it's employees, just being able to get insight into information within our organization. Again, just creating more complexity, more applications solely focused on that, more point-to-point integrations. Thinking that we were done with web applications, no. The advent of mobile phones and really the smartphone gave us a new window into the world of applications and a new need for accessing more data. And as you notice, the more and more we go down this, whether it's from initially receiving orders from our partners, then receiving orders through the web, now mobile, the need to increase the speed at which this data is moving inside our organization and to these new applications increased it with each new advent in technology. So again, with mobile applications, more access to information, need to unlock more of that data that exists across our applications. And what actually happened is that each one of these layers, it seemed we created their own set of applications. They had their own set of data. So I replicated data across my entire organization, creating more complexity, increasing cost. And while providing some innovation, it was expensive to maintain. And the last, whether it's IoT, now we took device access. We weren't satisfied enough, or industry is not satisfied enough, just having access to our mobile phone. Now everything needs to be connected, and everything needs to have access, in some cases, to my backend system, because there are new revenue streams, both from mobile and from IoT-type devices. And again, the speed is now exponentially increased in terms of the amount of information that's coming into my enterprise, the need for me to respond, not just historical information like data warehouses and Hadoop, but I need to access this information, analyze this information in real time at a speed at which I've never received information historically. Again, new applications, new challenges, and more point-to-point, brittle, and tightly coupled integrations. And again, we created the idea of wanting to provide these new capabilities and services, but we continue to go back to the old approach on how we build this. Now, we haven't done a lot to decrease the cost, or so there, again, the next part in our organizational challenge in IT was to take certain pieces out of the ERP and to realize that cloud might be that answer. Cloud might be the ability to reduce our costs. Finally, we've been able to identify a way to get much more economies of scale related to the cost for doing functionality. So we move a lot of our applications into the cloud. And while at times there are some cost savings, although they tend to be recurring in a different type of model, we also also increased our complexity. We increased our complexity by now the need to integrate not just inside our organization, but external to our organization. Still need to maintain those point-to-point connections to where the data actually exists. No cloud provider has our data, and so all of them need access to information. And while it might start with a very simple file satisfying them in the interim, often these type of applications need to get more real-time access, the more innovation I bring to my organization. And all that does is bring complexity, more complexity. So I think one of the things that we think is really important is both understanding how we got to this place where we have 79% of our spend for a CIO is dedicated just toward keeping this together, keeping these connections available, and the number of different ways we've integrated, whether it's file-based or batch or real-time, or whether it's web services or REST, JSON support, whatever it is, all these things cost money, time, and add complexity to organization.
Great point, Hank, and you really paint a grim picture here, but it's also important to understand the forces at work that have also contributed to the complexity of this architecture. On one hand, you have cloud, where a number of customers saw the need to reduce cost, carve out the ERP, as you put it, into the cloud, but in the process further worsened the point-to-point integration problem because there's more data that is proliferating across and within an organization. Mobility, I think mobility is a huge driver, allowing customer engagement initiatives and something that end users and consumers absolutely demand from organizations. But this is also contributing to a lot of the access and the privileges for the kind of data that should be seen and allowed for such consumer and customer use. Let's not forget Hadoop and the movement around big data. Certainly, customers saw the huge benefit in reducing, or in some cases, tremendously reducing the cost from data warehouses as they move to Hadoop. But a lot of these, don't necessarily translate into, business benefits, right? You're still continuing to do analytics very reactively using data at rest rather than trying to use some of the more real-time at the right time approaches using data in motion, not to mention yet another set of data silos that you now have to manage. So these forces at work, and then of course IoT. Let's not forget IoT, a lot of movement in this area, sensors, devices, home appliances becoming IoT enabled, and further increasing the complexity, but also creating new opportunities for customers to be able to identify new sources of revenue. So let's not forget the positive impact, but the negative side is really the increase in complexity of the architecture as a result of all these forces coming into play almost at the same time. Back to you, Hank.
Thanks, Subhas. That's a very good point. Another thing that I think is important to understand is we've replicated both data and services across this infrastructure. A common example that I've seen as I've gone into organizations, both large and small, is asking them, how many Git customer services have you implemented? And what's interesting is that some organizations, as many as 23 times, have they implemented some version of Git customer, the most basic of information of how to access customer information and identify and understand who your customers are. And yet 23 times in an organization did they implement that sort of functionality. That is one of the things that we think we need to change in terms of how we move forward, because it cannot sustain this type of approach. So as we move forward, we think another important aspect in the existing way that we have built our IT infrastructure is the need and desire to move back to more custom applications. The reason why is standardization and harmonization did bring standardization. But what is standardization? It's not differentiation. It's not a way that I can say I provide new capability or that I'm innovative over my peers or my competitors. And so one of the things that we find is very important is moving back to custom applications. The thought that they were expensive has certainly been disproven by the amount of investment that many organizations have spent on ERP and packaged applications. But packaged applications, as we said, they're not unique. They're not differentiating. And in today's world, we need to differentiate. So what we've done is think about what is required as part of an application. What is necessary in order to build an application? Well, there's many things that are repeatable that could be standardized in terms of having a platform to provide that, whether it's security, whether it's integration, how to access data, being able to deploy it in a scalable fashion, being able to have, support many different standards, whether it's web services or HTTP, or whether it's REST or microservices. We shouldn't have to rebuild a new application with every new advent of technology standardization. So microservices doesn't have to have its own deployed architecture with its own set of services and its own set of applications. Why isn't that just a module that plugs into an existing infrastructure that has all these capabilities already built in, already thought out, already hardened for us? And really, let's focus then just on what's unique to our organization, which we say down at the bottom. What are the applications I need to integrate to? Is there a better way to do it? What are the events or the data that I need with this an application? And do they exist someplace in my organization that I can find a better way to how I leverage them versus just replicating data across an organization? How do I make decisions and apply my logic, not on building the new or the same security into every application and having to rebuild it every time? Why don't I focus on differentiating capability, like how I make decisions? Or how do I take action in real time? Instead of just having data at rest being analyzed, why don't I do that data in motion? Why don't I take data in motion, make a decision, and take an action? That's what we need in our enterprises today, especially given the need to innovate at a faster and faster pace. So how do we get to the next 21st century architecture? I think for us, we want to help and be a part of that. I think that one of the next things that we want to talk about is how we as an organization can help you move from this place into the digital transformation. There are a number of questions that we need to ask before we even move there. And instead of just selling you another piece of technology to, quote, fix this all, which we'd love to do, we think it's really important to start with, what assets do you even have? What's the cost of those assets today? And which ones are truly differentiating for your business that do have your insights and information contained within them so you can be a better organization, leveraging the assets you have, not recreating them from scratch? What is your best get customer service so that you can implement that one time versus the 23 that one of my customers did? This is something that's important. And then how much does all this cost? And then how do I align that with the business goals that my business has shared with me? I need technology and the ability to communicate to them in a way that communicates my business capabilities and how I align that to my architecture and my solution. So that's something that we're working on to provide capability, even just to ask those simplistic questions of how much do I spend, how much of that 79% is replicated or is duplicated across an organization? How do I have application rationalization to move from thousands, as one of our customers did, to hundreds of applications, being a better steward of the resources that we have, and applying more of that resource budget to being able to build new applications. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Subhash to talk about how we take that and move into the 21st century architecture.
Thanks, Hank. Before I present the Software AG Digital Business Platform architecture, I want to first answer this question, innovate or ... And that's the key word here. I don't think organizations have a choice but to innovate. Back to the point that Hank made about ERP applications, these are standardized and harmonized. They're great for running a business, but they're just table stakes. They offer no differentiation. And if indeed custom applications or applications that you build with your own unique business logic is the key to success, we got to figure out a way to help you develop those applications on a scalable, performant, and flexible platform that indeed allows you to build these very rapidly and quickly. Let me also highlight one more factor here that Hank talked about around the fact that custom applications themselves are not new, right? They have been around for a long time. But what they have required customers to do is to redefine topics like security, integration, performance scale, and standards over and over by requiring you to code your way through these applications with very little reusability or being able to leverage what has been built previously. And that is also a big factor in making sure we need to help you customers find a better way to build these applications while continuing to look at the business logic. And that is the key word here. The business logic is really at the heart of what you want to do with the applications. And as Hank pointed out, topics around integration, events, decisions, and actions are really what construe business logic as we define it today. So let's move forward. And what does the future hold? And the future is now in terms of the Software AG 21st century application architecture, what we call the digital business platform. So we start off with an enterprise-wide ESB, or enterprise-wide ESB, that allows you to integrate all your applications, but not just your back office applications, it's also your data warehouses, your IoT devices and centers, and all your mobility kind of requirements as well, right? Now, initially, such a wide integration platform was used to solve the point-to-point integrations, right? By using PubSub, allowing integrations to be one-to-many. So certainly, at a very minimum, you're able to move from the point-to-point integration spaghetti or mess to a one-to-many PubSub-like architecture. But then this ESB has also now evolved from its original purpose to not just synchronize data, but to also start service enabling these backend applications. Now, why do we want to do this? Once you service enable and make these services available from the bus, you're able to now discover very interesting insights inside of these backend applications that we call events. These events are not always data that need to be integrated, but then they can be used to gain insights that allow the business to make real-time decisions. Okay? Now, an important part of the Software AG digital business platform is that these services and events are in memory. So it allows so being in memory allows instant access to this data and the events by customers at any given time. In fact, the in-memory ESB architecture that Software AG came out with was the first of its kind in the industry when we announced this a couple of years ago, and really evolves the use of in-memory as a key underpinning for the entire digital business platform. So now what can I do next with it? These in-memory events can then be correlated to identify business moments that organizations can then use to leverage and engage customers by creating and offering customized offers, or even to help identify problems before they happen, say in their supply chain, for example. Then these correlated events based on the understanding of a complex event allows the business to then make decisions. They can kick off rules to then kick off a series of actions that can be a set of tasks, an orchestrated process, or even a dynamic case, right? So what you see as we start building out the different layers that make up the digital business platform, we have started identifying the key elements around what we call the business logic, whether it's the integration layer with your services, the event layer with the underlying events happening within your applications, the decisions now that can be made via rules, business rules, for the kind of action you want to take, and finally the action itself, which can be a task, a case, or a process, or any kind of action that allows you to respond quickly to the business need. Now, this is the business logic that we highlighted earlier with Hank around the key elements around action, decision, event, and integration. So now the question is, what can I now start doing with this business logic? Let me give you a few examples of the kind of applications that our customers have already started building on the digital business platform. For example, we have a sporting goods retailer who's better engaging with their customers via mobile applications that exposes real-time store inventory. If you're a retailer, this is a holy grail of information, real-time inventory, so that these can be quickly exposed to customers who can search for the closest store location for the item they're looking for, as well as compare prices, okay? Another example is a cable company who was suffering from poor customer satisfaction and increased competition from streaming providers, who has built a more intuitive customer entertainment application to improve the customer experience when consumers like you and I interact with our set-top boxes directly in our living room. Yet another example of a customer who's now started identifying new revenue channels is a printer manufacturer who, looking to grow revenues in their managed services area, is linking IoT events from sensors located within their printers to correlate this information to then detect when a device needs preventive maintenance, and then based on that decision, kick off an action, which is a work order for a technician to get the problem resolved proactively, and in the process, avoid costly repairs. Yet another example of a customer is a bottler and distributor managing vending machines who has exposed REST APIs to receive telemetric data related to the location of these machines, getting insight into the temperature, the inventory within these vending machines, all to understand usage and monitor health of these machines, and to recommend corrective actions, whether it's to refill it or to make some repairs before something really seriously goes wrong. And last but not least, a retailer with automated rental kiosks is securely exposing and managing a set of APIs that show kiosk locations, which they then expose to their partners, which are the retailers, who then allow the partners to make offers that they can put in front of customers when customers go to these kiosks to, say, rent a movie, for example. And then finally, we have a customer, a pharmaceutical customer, who's putting all of this together to really build a comprehensive application to manage a new product launch process for all the healthcare products while meeting stringent regulatory mandates like FDA initiatives. These applications integrate directly into the underlying package applications, correlate, discern events, kick off workflow tasks for human interaction, all within the context of a business process that manages this full life cycle of creating a new product. So these are some examples of applications that customers have already built on the Software Digital Business Platform. But then what makes these applications unique and different from the custom applications that we've been talking about for all these decades? One of the key aspects that Software AG solves is the idea that non-functional requirements like security, integration, the fact that I need to make these massively scalable in the internet age that we're living in, the ability to quickly adopt and implement standards like web services, REST, microservices, OData, the standards are just exploding in the industry these days. The ability for you to be able to leverage these key capabilities consistently and in a uniform way without having to recode your applications every time to meet the needs of the next set of customers who are going to be accessing applications, whether you're moving from 1,000 users today to 1 million tomorrow. You should not have to go back and re-architect and redesign the applications just to meet a high volume and scale that you're going to be seeing in a couple of years' time. And then the way we do that is by providing this protective layer using APIs that allow you to expose the capabilities within these applications directly to the end users and consumers of this information. Mobility, for example, plays a huge role here. A lot of our customers are embarking on mobile-first initiatives where they want to expose the capabilities and information that they build within the applications for their own employees, for their customers, and their partners to really provide them real-time information at the right time through simple-to-use mobile applications. Of course, web browser and web-based interactions haven't gone away as well, and this is yet another channel for these end users to be able to interact directly with these applications. So to summarize, these applications built on the Digital Business Platform can leverage a commonly defined set of capabilities around security, integration, performance, scale, but most important, they can quickly ramp up to meet the set of new demands that you have, whether it's new standards, whether it's new volume requirements, without having to go back and re-implement these every time, okay? But more important, as Hank talked about the cloud being a really key and defining force within our customer base, we also see the need within our customers to actively move some part of the applications to the cloud in a gradual and consistent manner. And that is the key to this architecture. We give you the option to then deploy a hybrid cloud architecture so that you folks in IT as well as your CIOs can pick and choose the components that you want to move at your pace. A good example of this is the ability to run your integrations on-premise, and then over time, depending upon the kind of use cases you have some of those run in the cloud as well. But then for both the on-premise and the cloud to work with one another, interoperate, and then share information so that these don't look and feel as different silos, but they look as if it's part of the same architecture and implementation. So let me recap what we just talked about. We're talking about the Software AG digital business platform and the fact that as customers embark towards initiatives around digital transformation, it's very important to understand the current set of challenges that CIOs face today with the 7921, where they are mostly focused on maintaining and managing the current applications, which taking up a lot of their budget, and not having enough to spend on innovation, which is really the key way to differentiate and compete against the competitors that you have today and the growing list of competitors that are emerging in this fast-moving internet era. Software AG solution is the digital business platform, but it's not just a platform. It is also an entirely new way of architecting and looking at how do you build the next generation of applications on a robust platform that provides not just the ability to rapidly build these, but also build this in a consistent manner that allows you to leverage topics like security, integration, performance, scale, but also allow you to consistently build the business logic around what these applications all around, right? The integration layer, the event layer, decision layer, action layer, for these applications which are built for change. And that's the most important part here. The applications that are built these days are fairly short-lived. They may just last 6 months, they may just last a year, and then there may be a new requirement for you to either modify these applications pretty dramatically or to just throw them away and start with a whole set of new applications. And then at this pace of change that we live today, you need an architecture that allows you to leverage everything that you built previously so that when you embark on building the next set of applications, you're not starting from scratch. You're using the foundation that you've already defined earlier, you're leveraging the assets you've already defined earlier, and you're able to quickly assemble the next set of applications that business is demanding for you to build. So Hank, what does this do to our CIO here? He looks pretty happy.
I think the challenge is obviously a new way to take the existing assets that do have value that organizations have built over time. We're not suggesting in any way that we're throwing out all the applications. We're taking and identifying for your organization through this digital transformation what assets have value to the organization, meet the business capabilities, and are not duplicated across the organization. We want to standardize. And what that allows you when you do that is reducing your application portfolio from, again, as customers have, thousands to hundreds or even lower. That frees up more money for innovation because I can standardize on my application for what purpose each of these assets provide. I can organize them in a much more efficient way where all the information from all my assets in the organization are available to make use of in any API, whether it's custom or mobile. And I'm not building another application farm just because I have a new innovation and technology that comes out. I'm doing nothing more than plugging them in to this API layer and making use of the assets that exist within an organization that have now been proven as the asset the organization identifies as owning the customer, shall we say. So now I have one Git customer that is leveraged across all my platforms and all my standards, no matter where that is within my organization, whether internally or externally, or no matter how fast it needs to be deployed, given that I have a solution and a platform that is designed for scale. So what that allows the CIO to do is reduce the budget that's allocated to just keeping things going and more applications, because really the method on the left-hand side is not sustainable. I cannot sustain having a custom application for every and a custom whole framework for every single new innovation that comes along. I need to standardize on a platform and a way in which I get information between these applications that are within my organization. And more innovation allows me not just to meet the demands of the organization, but in some cases to stay in business. Because certainly, as we've seen recently, organizations are breaking down. New competitors are coming in, new competitors who are bringing technology and are not beholden to the old approach of architectural principle based on point-to-point and hardwiring, and more importantly, hoarding information in applications where I only can access it through the particular vendor's approach. And my innovation is being bought, previously by from package application vendors. Now I want to take and own innovation. I want to leverage my assets and be more innovative. And I can do that as I free up resources, identify my key assets, listen to the business in terms of the demands that are necessary. And really, because I've now freed this information, I've freed these events and this data to be explored in real time, be correlated, to make real-time decisions, and then take action all within this platform provides me new ways to meet the challenges of the business never even contemplated before. I think that's the unique thing that we've seen with new organizations, even some you mentioned as an example, the printer manufacturer, who is embarking on a new part of their whole business. Their entire corporate strategy is on a new managed service offering, preventative maintenance, which they believe they must do in order to exist in 5 to 10 years and to grow as every organization needs and wants to do. So we feel, because not only are we creating this idea, we've executed on it with some of our customers. It's exciting to now bring it to you, the rest of our customer base, to be able to see how we can work collaboratively with you to be more innovative than maybe we have in the past. So again, Savash, those are my thoughts, and certainly appreciate your thoughts. Anything else you'd like to share before we turn it back over to Charlie?
Yeah, I want to take a few minutes. So thanks, Hank. As customers embark on this journey called digital transformation, it's really important to look at a unified platform like the Software AG Digital Business Platform to be able to build a set of applications and capabilities that you need to truly compete in this digital age. Let me take a few minutes to maybe highlight some of the capabilities we have within the Digital Business Platform. We've talked about this at a fairly high level. There is a lot of best of breed as well as best of suite, best of platform capabilities that Software AG offers. On the best of breed side, we have world-famous integration that encompasses application to application, business to business, cloud integration, and mobile and big data integration. So integration encompasses all these different use cases that we have seen over the last 15 years, especially over the last few years with cloud and mobility playing a big role as a result of those forces. Then we have the event management capabilities, where we have the ability to event enable through our integrations these wonderful insights that we have within these applications. And that in turn leads to the ability to do complex event processing, correlation, instrumenting underlying events to really understand what is going wrong within and monitor a complex business process without having to really draw it out. And then you go into the decision of the rule side. Here's where you can, through business rules, make the right decisions on the fly in terms of how you want to actually handle the events and integrations that are going on. And then finally, we have the actions, which is on the tasks and processes, and being able to even kick off an API or a service to receive attain the result that you choose. Let's also not forget within our underlying components we have topics like master data management to really give you sort of that key master data information for the kind of initiatives that you're working on. File transfer, I think, Hank, you mentioned that. File transfer is still a big part of everything that we do within organizations today. That hasn't gone away. And then, of course, API management. This is really a growing part of what customers view as the API economy, yet another source for new revenue opportunities that customers are actively looking at, either as a way to expose their capabilities to power their own mobile devices. We have lots of customers doing that already, but also as a way to expose these capabilities to partners for the sake of self-service, for the sake of encouraging third-party developers to be able to come in and build the kind of applications that can further broaden the ecosystem that these customers need to get ahead in the internet in the internet era. All right, so hopefully, ladies and gentlemen, that gives you an overview for what we call the digital business platform and the need for this re-architecture to go from this current state to the state that we call the digital business platform to help power the next set of business applications that you want to build. At this point, I'll turn it over to you, Charlie.
Well, thank you very much, Subhash, and thank you, Hank. That's an excellent presentation. And just to put my 2 cents in, I would summarize that the digital business platform is enabling the rapid development of the next generation of digital applications, which are built for change, leveraging reusable business logic components, as you've been saying, that can be deployed in a hybrid mode, and we're going to get to more of that in our Q&A. Firstly, though, as a reminder, please use the WebEx Q&A chat box for any questions. And before that, when we get to the final slide, and there it is, please note that there are resources available to obtain more information about Software AG's presentations and demos, as well as information directly about the digital business platform, as you can see from the bottom strip of the screen. Also, if we don't get to all your questions today, you'll note Subhash's and Hank's email are available for follow-ups. So we definitely want to talk to you if you have a question, or if a question occurs after the conclusion of the session today. By the way, I'm not going to go through all the next WebMethods Wednesdays presentations listed here, but I think you would definitely want to tune in again next week for a live demo of how to be a digital business, which is really a great companion piece to today's presentation, where you'll see the digital business platform conceptually in action, bringing multiple products together in order to address a particular customer business problem. So, Subhash, toward the end of the whiteboarding, you talked about the need to bring together on-premises and cloud computing. So one question here is, what is the hybrid cloud option exactly?
That's a great question, Charlie. So hybrid is now a keyword that is being used very often in my customer interactions as I go and talk to customers about their cloud strategy. In fact, this is probably one of the hottest topics that is going today. And most of the time, in fact, almost every time, what I hear back from our customers is that it is not on-premise or cloud. It is both. And that's why hybrid is a key topic for us in terms of how we have architected the digital business platform, because we believe that customers will continue to have applications and infrastructure on-premise, but there will be a growing need to complement, replace, or even move some of these to the cloud. It's already happening, and it'll continue to happen in the next couple of years. And our strategy around the cloud is hybrid. Simply put, that we recognize that customers have the need to work in an environment that spans their on-premise data center, private cloud infrastructures, public cloud infrastructure, or even managed services infrastructures. And it is going to be a combination of these that they need to span and bridge as they bring upon, they bring on board new applications, new capabilities that may potentially live in different places and over time migrate from one place to another. So our hybrid cloud strategy, using an example with integration, because it's a good example, is to allow customers who are on-premise integration customers to absolutely continue to use those integration capabilities on-premise with integration server. As they identify new use cases around cloud-to-cloud integration, or maybe even cloud-to-on-premise integration, having the opportunity and the option to take some of these integrations to the cloud, say using WebMethods Integration Cloud, but most important, have these interoperate and not be in separate silos. So Integration Cloud integrations can be built directly in the cloud. They can also leverage the services and APIs you build on-premise to provide a very seamless and holistic way of bridging integrations that come from on-premise to the cloud and vice versa. So that's really at the heart of what we call the hybrid cloud strategy.
Going back a little before that, how does the in-memory enabled ESB work?
So the in-memory capabilities have been a differentiator for Software AG for a couple of years now. And let me give you a good example of our big announcement a few years ago when we talked about being the first in-memory enabled ESB out in the market. What we do within the ESB is really have a set of services that is exposed to end users, consumers, for them to be able to invoke and access over a wide variety of standards, right? This is back to my presentation earlier talking about I can take any service, I can invoke it over web services, I can invoke it over REST, I can invoke it over OData, which is a new and emerging standard. But also these services can be put directly in memory so that the result of these services are now instantly available to those consumers who need access to that data. As opposed to previously when I had to make a service call and it had to go to a backend, I had the latency of the backend to resolve before I send the results back to my consumer. Now, I can actually put all this in memory and get almost an order of magnitude in a performance boost for the response times that I give back to my consumer for the data that is going back to them. But more important, as that backend data changes, I'm also able to refresh this cache or the information in my memory so that the next invocation of that service is not giving me the old stale data, but it is giving me the latest data that is available from the backend, but in that fast responsive time.
Regarding APIs, so here's the question. How can the same API be leveraged or invoked over web services or REST or OData without actually needing to recode it?
This is a fundamental tenet of the Software AG Business platform in understanding the fact that services or APIs have a clear separation of the implementation from the access methods. It is so clearly abstracted out, and which is what makes this architecture so simple at the same time so powerful. And that is really precisely the reason why capabilities that we build within webMethods, capabilities that are exposed to the rest of the Software AG Digital Business platform are done in a way where you build it once, you define it once, but the access methods through late binding can be changed on the fly. So traditionally, we have supported simple, plain old HTTP calls. And over time, we've supported the wide variety of web services and SOAP-based standards. A few years ago, we embarked on REST because REST became a de facto standard for the way that mobile apps, for example, get data from other applications. And finally, with the emergence of OData and other new standards, and then going forward with microservices, which is also a new way to start implementing these capabilities, these applications in a container-based environment. So we have the ability, thanks to our very flexible architecture, to allow any customer to invoke any API using an access method that may be very traditional or very modern without having to recode that.
So, Bosh, that's a great point, and I think something that does differentiate our solution. And I think the proof of that is services that were built before REST and JSON, as an example, were even around, don't need to be recoded. And I think that may be something that in the future, as one of our demonstrations, we show off, because I do think it's something that's so unique about us to give customers the ability to leverage the services that have already been built and not rebuild that whole structure needed for these new technologies. So a great question.
And by the way, coming up in our series will be live demos regarding API and also microservices. So you were certainly referencing ERP in the first more spaghetti point-to-point integration. So here's a question: why do organizations develop custom applications instead of using a traditional ERP?
Yeah, and I think this is a good summary of what we have talked about in this presentation, that ERPs became critical business functions or powered critical business functions and capabilities because of the way that they were packaged to be standardized applications. But over time, customers have realized that, yes, these are table stakes. I need them to run my business, but they themselves will not give me the differentiation I need to compete in the digital age that we are currently in. What if me and my competitor both bought the same ERP? How is that piece of software giving me the differentiation to better engage my customers, optimize my business processes, or find new revenue channels that I want to do and not have my competitor do the same? And that's really at the heart of what we talk about, building applications, building custom applications on this flexible platform that we call the digital business platform as a way to complement what we have with ERP. And that's also a very important part of this discussion. And Hank, I would love for you to chime in as well. We recognize that customers have large applications already in their portfolio. We offer ways through our transformation, our digital transformation methodology, to help you understand how you can reduce costs and plan for the retirement of some of these applications. But then you are also, as a customer, challenged to build these custom applications to help differentiate in the marketplace.
Yeah, I think one important point is we definitely recognize the value in many of the package applications and ER applications and custom applications have been developed. We're not suggesting that we're replacing all of those. We're really saying that we're leveraging those. We have very adapter technology connect to these assets to leverage them, and even if they've been customized to be able to take advantage of them. Many of our capabilities, we've worked together with the ERP providers in order to create adapters to that technology. So they're very advanced. The goal, though, is to leverage them for what they're good at, to allow them to expose data, not just hoard that data inside the particular package applications, but through our platform to allow them to participate together and in memory across all the information that exists within an organization versus having to go to silos and be able to make a decision about what one application thinks and then go to their application to get their input. It's really about unleashing the data and the events that exist in my organization, no matter where they are, into in-memory to be able to correlate and make real-time decisions and then to take action. And I think that's the key. It's not just about being able to make real-time decisions or decisions about the information, because certainly data warehousing and Hadoop have done brilliant jobs of discerning and recognizing trends, but they lack the ability to take action in real time. I think that's the unique aspect that we bring, is combining all those together in a platform that is designed to work together and designed to work inside your organization. It does not require you to get rid of one asset that has value, but is able to leverage it in a new and exciting way. And that's what's exciting about our role moving forward in the digital business.
Great. I think we have time for one more question, and this has to do with events. Why is event enablement important to my business?
Because there is so much information going on inside your applications that are not necessarily candidates for integration, and that's the distinction I want to make. Traditionally, when we have looked at an enterprise service bus, its primary goal has been to move data for the purpose of synchronizing data between applications. But one of the most interesting aspects of events is that there's a lot of data happening inside of application that do not need to be moved for the purpose of integration, but at the same time, being able to liberate this information and make important decisions based on these events is a key part of being successful as a business. Let me give you examples of supply chain, for example. There is a lot of information happening within underlying applications that tell you how your order is processing or progressing through your enterprise. And there are milestones, there are ways to figure out where your order is today. But what if something goes wrong? What if you want to change course? What if environmental factors like weather play a role in shipment? How do you actually find something that is going to happen before something really bad happens? And that's the power of events. Or even using an example of the way we as consumers, expect, retailers to behave, depending upon the ways that we go and search for information, fill out shopping carts, may not really progress through a shopping cart and go through to fulfillment. But the idea that retailers can understand consumer behavior, be able to pick this information out, and then put out the right offer really allows them to start opening new revenue channels. And this is really the power of digital business, where this is not the same old from years back. This is new ways for organizations to be able to better differentiate, compete with their competitors, but also provide superior customer service. And to use a favorite expression of mine, delight the customer. That's really at the what's at the heart of this.
We'd like to thank again Subhash Ramachandran and Hank Bailey for joining us today for this great presentation, this great whiteboarding, and of the topic, Digital Business Platform. We're back again at 2 o'clock today, but please know that we're here every Wednesday at 10 or 2 o'clock Eastern, and we look forward to your comments and for you to join us once again. Thanks, and have a great rest of the day.